Lucky you.
36 best holes in
Into
golf.
Alternate Shots podcast,
Barney's Army.
where we talk about
Sandy.
golf, poker,
James Bond.
horse racing,
Double.
classic movies.
Zenyatta.
We have no script.
Down the stretch they come.
We are glad you joined us.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
Well, welcome back to the Alternate Shots podcast. It's been a while since we talked to you about our opening hole on the West Course, number 1 West. And, if you kind of look at this overhead view, this is where we were talking about 1 West. It goes off just to the right is the driving range. And just on the top of that, we go across that tiny little maintenance road and we go to 2 West. Billy, welcome back. Maybe you can frame this for everybody, what we do on this podcast. We don't have much of a script, right?
No script. Very much like an actual round of golf. You take it as it comes. 2 West, by the way, you talked about that little maintenance road. You're in a foursome on Saturday morning. 4 guys walking to 2 West after just having either a great time or an ordeal on 1 West. So your frame of mind is going to be, it runs the spectrum. You're either excited and enthusiastic, or you're thinking, oh my God, how much is this day going to cost me? And then you get to the second tee and you look out there and it's a beautiful, slight sweeping right, dog leg right. The right side is danger, trees all the way down. If you hit it in there, you're going to need to punch out. And on the left side, there's a bunker on the left side of the fairway that you never want to be in, but you have to play your tee shot towards it. In it is disaster unless you're one of those guys who can hit a 190-yard shot out of a green side type bunker, but not me. But the thing that really overwhelms you about the hole is that tree that you can see in the picture there, that Tillinghast had as a specimen tree. He wanted you to see that from everywhere. And it's just magnificent. It can play havoc with your way you play the hole. If you get stuck behind it, if you bang it in across it, or it can just overwhelm you with its beauty. It's an amazingly different than 1 West for a second hole. Still challenging. The green isn't quite as challenging as 1 West, and the hole isn't quite as intimidating. But after you've just played 1 West, almost anything can look intimidating because you're probably in catch-up mode. So I want to try and get it hole high. I'm playing it over to the right and hoping that the slope will bring me down to somewhat. And again, it's early in the round and you're not necessarily as aware of the green speeds yet. And I think that hole, probably the green speed and understanding the green speeds, is probably as important as any hole out there, especially because it's early in the round. Yeah. And a putt can get away from you there and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Just barely touched it. Looked like it was a good putt. And then it just keeps on going.
In the middle of May to like June, July, when they're running 12, 13, which is still faster than what they play in the Open, our regular speeds maybe. It gets to the hole and you think, okay, I got my 2 putt, and you drop your head and you're walking toward the hole and you look up and it's 5. It trickled by, right?
Stop.
So, you talked about the tee shot there. Now it's lengthened quite a bit, but I remember the 2006 Open, not the current one. We just had Bryson DeChambeau, because that was played in a different time of year because of COVID and all that. That was played in September. Typically, Father's Day weekend in June is when they play the Opens. And at Winged Foot, that is the choice, the best condition ever. Like when we don't have the Open, we have some tournaments then. And
you have the Anderson,
like this, right, Billy?
You have the Anderson and you have the member guest. And Steve Rabideau is unbelievable at getting those greens in shape. I always say, if you're complaining about something at Winged Foot, then everything else in your life must be perfect, because it's really, we have issues where we're like, why are we aerating, or why this or why that? But I'm going to say I've never been any place where the condition is so consistently good and so consistently challenging. It's unbelievable. to get to have the privilege to play there as often as I do.
Yeah, I asked my friends who are in neighboring, like, there's so many golf courses within a few miles of Wingfoot, Quaker Ridge, Westchester Country Club, and all these other places. One day I'm playing, maybe we were playing, and I'm down 14 East. It was in the morning. The guys are out there in the first week of December cutting the greens. And I'm like, who does this? It's December in New York. It's cold.
You look at that tree, and I'm not an agronomist, but I have learned over the years, and as many of us had with taking down a lot of trees on golf courses, it's extremely difficult to maintain a green to that level with a tree that size, because the tree sucks up a lot of the nutrients that are meant for the green. But again, the crew at Wingfoot manages to work around that, and that tree, it's almost sacred, that tree. It's an amazing standout. And the fact that these guys can keep the greens as good as they do with a tree like that is a real testament to their ability.
Yeah, I remember many stories. I do remember this green having many more trees to the left, in the back over there. 5 West is behind the elm tree.
Yeah.
And over to the right. But now you just see this. It's kind of like, the Statue of Liberty or the Leaning Tower of Pisa. It stands out onto its own. Even your brother Neil taught me back when they were paring down some trees over there to the left of 6 West. He said, Bobby, once they take that down, you'll see this elm. Certainly when you're coming up 5 West, rather, right?
Yep.
And you think it's almost on the 5th West, right?
Absolutely.
So
and Neil was advocating for even a few more of those trees to be taken down. I've had discussions about that, but it's a matter of who cares really at the end of the day. You spot the tree and you're still at Wingfoot. So
now Wingfoot's taken a lot of trees out, but it's a friend of mine would say there's still 10,000 of them out there.
Yeah, there's a lot, and they preserved as many of the forest areas as they could. Yeah. So what I always say is, if you came to Wingfoot for the first time tomorrow, you wouldn't walk off the course saying it's a great place, but it would be better if there was 1,500 more trees out there.
Right.
So there, people who lived, it's like your house. You sell your house to somebody and they remodel the whole thing, and it's like, well, I liked it the old way. Well, yeah, because you grew up in it and you were used to it. But if it was the first time you saw the remodel, it's great. And that's the same thing with trees. You miss some of them. They're nostalgic on some levels, but the reality is trees and golf courses don't always mix. They create shade, so the grass doesn't grow that well. And as far as difficulty with a tree being there or not being there, that's subjective. Sometimes the tree that is no longer there creates a worse shot for you because your ball didn't hit it and get knocked back. So there's no way to say whether the lack of trees makes the course easier or harder on any given day. So you have to rely on the agronomist, and they know what they're doing. I mean, look at the shape this course is in and day out.
I would say, I didn't know Craig Wood, legendary pro at Wingfoot, did very well in the majors, and Claude, and of course Tom Neoporti, and now Mike Gilmore. Probably you couldn't ask for better top, maybe in their field, head professionals. Tom Neoporti and Claude won PGA. Well, Claude won the Masters and finished 3rd in the U.S. Open in 1959. Mike Gilmore has won a lot. But
their longevity is, even aside from their ability, their longevity. Wingfoot is that's an awesome thing about Wingfoot. They know what they're doing on every level. Since I've been a member there, they know what they're doing. You could question this decision or that decision, but at the end of the day, it always turns out right. Mike Gilmore, there isn't a better choice for pro that I've seen yet for Wingfoot than Mike. He's funny. He can play the hell out of the ball, and he's been there, man. This is this is a tradition at Winged Foot that these pros last so long. It's a testament to both Winged Foot and to the quality of players and people that Winged Foot selects, and then the fact that they remain loyal. It's a two-way street, and it's an amazing two-way street.
Absolutely. And maybe someday we'll talk with some folks that know or knew Claude better. There's some, Hank Malfa, we're going to talk with him, Neil Christie. You know, there are guys that know Claude pretty well, even though he hasn't been around that much. But, you know, one of the things we talked about today when we were talking to John D'Andrea, or the man who is Birdman, is Claude always thought about Winged Foot, even when he was not working and he was down at Seminole in the wintertime, down in Jupiter, but you know, Seminole because they played the Walker Cup there recently. But Claude knew the guys that would caddy there and said, why don't you come up to Winged Foot in the summertime? And he got a bunch of guys coming up there. He cared about Winged Foot, like you said, and that was probably same as Tom Neoporti, same as today, Mike Gilmore. These guys care about it. They don't go home and not think about Winged Foot. It's hard to turn off the Winged Foot switch.
Tom Neoporti was just a wonderful person, top to bottom, let alone a great pro for Winged Foot. Just a wonderful guy with such a great disposition, patience, tempo. I can remember days when I could, you know, I guess everybody goes through it in golf where I couldn't hit the ball. So I don't know what's the matter. And rather than go to the range and try and work it all out, I'd go watch Tom Neoporti hit golf balls. And just watching him and his tempo was soothing. It always get me out of a funk. He had such a great swing and such a great attitude.
He told me one time the quality of golf for the amateurs that were members at Winged Foot was incredible. Matched up against many other places that had a regular playing, not, you know, this is the 12th club, you know, what's his name? Hegestedt, who just won the Winged Foot's Anderson recently. You know, he's a great guy and he's members at a lot of clubs, but the guys that are really good golfers at Winged Foot, they play like you did. They play a couple hundred rounds a year, right? And he said, you know, we have such terrible driving range. The rest of the practice facilities are good, but the
Harmons agreed with that.
Yeah, he said, imagine if we had a grass driving range like Westchester Country Club where you could hit it as far as you wanted to, how much better these guys would be. But the really good amateurs would hit and get shaggers down 9 East and hit off the grass there. But
right, the makeshift range over there.
Yeah.
But again, you know, I mean, we went through the whole process of trying to figure out where to put a grass range and everything like that. I don't want to call it nitpicking, but if you were going to find any fault, maybe that's it. But if you can't live with that fault, then you know you're probably not going to be able to live with almost anything. So,
and you probably never went to Europe and played some of those, you know, half the gems you play at Europe before you go out, there's a little, looks like a lacrosse net.
Yeah,
you can't put a ball in front of it and you swing away and you loosen up that way, right?
Well, look at Mid-Ocean, which is a wonderful golf course in Bermuda.
Oh, yeah.
You have to hit those, I forgot they call those fake balls, that like ping pong balls. You're loosening up is all you're doing. Yeah, you know, and if you're hitting a real golf ball, you can't hit more than the 7-iron. You know, so that's fine. Get over it. This is not what you came for. You came to get out there on the beautifully designed golf course, and the challenges that are awaiting you out there are what's important. So loosen up and then go hit some real shots.
That's it. You reminded me that 2 West green, and we're going back to that just a second. Everybody who has some recollection of US Open history remembers, you know, Fuzzy Zeller waving the white flag out there about 180 yards away from the green in the fairway. Well, Greg Norman, he didn't know this, but Greg Norman hit a prior to 18. He got it up and down out of the spinach on 16 West. Wow. Unbelievable. He makes 4, which is a par 5 for us, but 4 for the pros.
Right.
He hits it against the pine tree. It's no longer there. Now the bunkers are over there. He had to, on 17, he had to chip lateral left, hit a 6-iron on the green about 7 feet, made that putt. So
So he
two
played
incredible
those holes
pars.
like we play them, except he converted.
But like our friend Sock Drawer, he hits it perfect drive. Sock Drawer is better from behind a tree and putting it on a green. He's more likely to birdie there. Our friend Dennis Megley will do that. He hits a perfect drive on 18. This is Greg Norman. He's got a 6-iron. And if you remember, the stands are right and left, and he cold pushes it. He didn't shank it, he just cold pushed it because of the pressure into the bump and into the right. So he flips it on the green, and then everybody, including Fuzzy, sees him make that really nasty putt left to right downhill across the green, and Fuzzy's waving the flag. But that was an important part of that championship, but it wasn't the turning point. Now they go Monday, right? And they go down one. And I remember, because you can look this up, they both hit a beautiful shot into one. That pin was right in the middle, that terrible spot on one. We already talked about it. And they both managed to make birdies. So they're 1 under par. Okay, this is going to be a great day. Second hole, Norman drives it in the trees, so he has to pitch out. And he hits a pretty good wedge shot up there, maybe 12 feet above the hole on 2. Pin sort of like in that front area we were looking at before. Fuzzy hit a great drive and just must have nuked whatever that mid-iron was, maybe a 5 or 6-iron over the flag, but it went to the back of the green, as I was describing before. And
Right.
he had that terrible downhill, little bit right to left, little bit left to right, right? What's he do? He holds it.
Yeah.
He holds it, so he goes 2 under, and Norman missed his par putt and then missed the 2-footer coming back. That was game over right there, and it wasn't even close, the rest of it. But it was
That's
all
golf.
around 2 west.
Yeah, that's how golf works. It's the best pros, most of them can put something like that behind them, but in certain circumstances, you don't really have time to put it behind you. And then when you're in a playoff like that, you stumble that early, it's going to be really hard to just shrug that off.
Thing you learn in poker, you got a flush, but there's a pair of 9s on there. How good is your flush? Because somebody's could have 4 9s.
Now, depending on who you're playing, if I'm playing with the Plumber and Teddy and Baseball Mike and guys like that, and there's a pair on the board, they may well have the boat, but they won't be there chasing the flush if there's a pair on the board. So if I'm playing, some other guys that are my caliber or not my caliber,
Our home game guys, they're in there.
yeah, I'll play the flush at that point. If I get stuck like you got stuck, that's going to happen. But I'm not gonna run from that. But if I'm playing with these big boys up at Foxwoods or one of these places, when that board pairs, I shut down. Same way with Sock Drawer, I caught the straight and he bet, and I was like, he can't have the boat. He just can't. But of course he did. He had pocket 5s, and there was a 5 on the board. The board paired. The river was the same thing. Gave me the flush and gave him the boat.
Why?
And to his credit, he tried to be nice to me. He bet a small amount, and I raised him.
Because you were calling any amount, right?
I
don't want you to give away secrets.
Yeah, I had to at that point. But I should have known. And when he re-raised me, I was like, hey, he's got the boat. But at the same time, he played it so well, I almost felt obligated to give him. Told me that play deuces like they're aces. If you're going to play them, I said, that's probably good advice. So here I am with pocket deuces up at the Mohegan Sun. I play them like I got pocket aces. I ran right into pocket aces. Didn't work for me in our home game. We're all relatively new at this game. 2 or 3, 4 years ago, I guess is about as long as we were playing it. There's not one of them that hasn't improved in a tremendous amount. Sock Drawer being a really good example.
Thanks for joining us
Casper,
today.
Billy
We
Harmon,
really appreciate your
Double
feedback.
Indemnity,
And please
Arky,
subscribe to the
2
show
Outer,
and hit
Claude
the bell
Harmon,
icon so you get notified
Movie
of
Classics,
new episodes.
Mark Gable,
Hit them
Odd
hard
Job,
and hit them off.
Best 36 holes.
They'll stay if the situation warrants it. But I actually saw Johnny Chan fold an open-ended straight flush in one of those World Series of Pokers with 2 cards to come, because he knew, what are my chances? There's 2 cards that give me the straight flush. It looks wonderful, but there's only 2 cards, and there was a little one that gave him the straight flush. And I was watching that with a friend. I was like, oh my God, I could never have folded that. So that's why he's sitting at the World Series of Poker, and I'm, analyzing it from miles away. How about Scotty Wynn? Call me, baby, it's over. You
It's
told me,
over.
baby, it's over.
Hey, baby, get in there, baby.
Yeah.
Oh, there's so many good stories.
Well, that's
Well,
what's so great about poker, not just the game itself and the challenge and the mathematics and the swings. It's the characters. You don't care what their politics are. You don't care what their preferences are. You only care how you're going to get those chips away from them. And it could be your best friend sitting across from you. That's all off the table at that point, so to speak. So, yeah, it's a wonderful forum for explaining. As I was learning this game, and we used to play over at Siwanoy, a bunch of guys, we'd play Follow the Queen or, 7-card high low and all this. It was great. But when we moved into No Limit, it was a learning curve for all of us. And one guy in particular, I call him Sproggs, would say, this is all luck. I don't care if you're Phil Hellmuth or not. If you're not getting cards, you're not going to win. And I would say, Sproggs, the difference is if you're Phil Hellmuth, you're not going to lose with bad cards. You're not going to lose any money. You're not going to win anything from somebody who's hitting every flop, but you're not going to lose. We're going to lose. You're going to hit the flop, and I'm going to say, well, if I get a 5 or a 6, I can win this hand. I'm going to lose my money. They're not going to do that, because even those guys, if somebody's got a bugaboo, like you just, threw a bad beat on him by hitting some 2-outer, that guy's going to, I don't care who you are, the guy's going to have a little bit of it in for you. So he's going to say, you know what, I'm going to try and pay this SOB back for what he just did to me. So you need to know who you're dealing with, not just who you're dealing with and their ability, but what frame of mind they might be in based on what's been going on.
It's hard not to think that this hole can't be in one of your more favorite holes at Wingfoot because of this tree.
I'm looking out my window at December weather thinking, what a drag. I'd rather be, standing there with some of my buddies, doubling and redoubling whether or not I can get up and down from that right-hand bunker.
And you're gonna take a picture when the snow's on the ground. You're gonna take some more pictures that we'll share with our friends here, because
it's still beautiful in the snow, that place.
Yeah, and most people don't, because you're there 300 trips a year, right? Because you live 5-10 minutes away. I did too. I never liked to live more than 3 or 4 miles from Wingfoot, because it was kind of like my Starbucks. I had to go to Wingfoot, just to get my head straight.
I know every bump on Quaker Ridge Road.
Well, with that, we're gonna go ahead and talk about 3 West next, but keep an eye out for our special guest. We're gonna have John Birdman, John D'Andrea Birdman up on the podcast. We're gonna have some more special guests, and we hope that you enjoy this and you subscribe and like the videos. So,
thanks for joining us today.
Billy Harmon.
We really appreciate your
Double
feedback.
Indemnity.
And please
Arky.
subscribe to the show and hit the bell icon so you get notified.
Movie classics.
New episodes.
Clark Gable.
Hit them hard and hit them off.
Best 36 holes.